Welcome to Brew House. We are so glad that you have joined us. This is a weekly podcast and videocast series. We make fun of bad coffee. We love drinking good coffee. And more importantly, we really enjoy discussing and answering the tough questions that you guys, our wonderful audience, are asking us each and every week. So look forward to you guys tuning in. Every single week, we are going to answer a different question and just give you some of our thoughts and ideas around it. We would love participation, so please feel free to comment, email us, provide us feedback. We want to hear from you because this is only as good as the questions you ask.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Shane.
I'm Brennan.
And we're pastors at Dalhousie Church, but we're also actually normal humans.
Believe it or not, pastors are normal people. We just subject ourselves to copious amounts of coffee.
Exactly. Welcome again. This is our, our first one, because
episode.
The last one was the introduction.
Just an intro.
And I just noticed something. We're wearing the same clothes we wore.
I don't even know how we managed to do that.
I don't either. Maybe
that's remarkable.
Maybe it's because we recorded them back to back.
You might be onto something there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think we fooled very many people with that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, it's good to see you at least clothed, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the best.
So anyway, last week we told you about Brew House. We talked about the theme and about coffee and about being coffee snobs.
Yep.
And having an appreciation for coffee, but we were also going to make fun of coffee.
We're going to have some fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to have fun.
Exactly. So the first thing I thought is I brought you up a special cup.
Look at this.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us what that says?
How does Moses make coffee, Shane?
I don't know how.
He brews it. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
If anyone understands that joke, then I appreciate it. And if you don't understand that joke, don't feel too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Tom got me that, man.
That's fantastic. Tom Mulhern, good guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good guy.
Awesome guy. Great pastor, great friend, great man, great dad, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, he got me that cup.
That's a good mug.
I pull it out for like on special occasions.
I appreciate that.
So today, man,
I've
got something made for you. Well, first of all,
you got a beautiful little coffee pot here.
Yes,
tell me about this.
This is a Belletti.
A Belletti.
Now, it's Italian, so I really don't have a clue how to pronounce it, especially being from the southern U.S.
Yeah.
So that's how I say it.
Great.
Right? But hey, my truth is your truth, and whatever.
Perfect.
But anyway, so this one is actually...
We got some good coffee in there.
I'll get to that in a second. This is actually an espresso maker.
Okay.
Okay.
Some espresso.
Yes.
Oh, I like where we're going.
This works kind of like, those old percolators that you would take to the fire and you would set it on the fire.
Your old camp stove coffee
exactly,
makers.
And it would percolate in. Well, it's the same principle, but better. It's made of really good quality material, the whole 9 yards.
I'm excited.
And for a nice, smooth cup of espresso, this is what we're going to use.
Well, you got a nice little espresso cup over there.
Yes, I do. Actually.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, and so what I have for us today, because this is an espresso maker, I don't have espresso for us today.
Okay.
I actually have something else. And I want to do a tribute to my dad, right?
All right.
Because my dad, he gets up in the mornings and he makes coffee for everybody.
Sure.
The whole 9 yards. And the coffee that he uses, believe it or not, is Folgers.
It's the best part of waking up, Shane.
Folgers coffee. Now, I'm going to be honest.
Oh, boy.
And say that I'm not a fan of the way that my dad makes coffee.
How does your father make coffee?
My dad, well, he does it in a percolator, for starters. But the second thing is that my dad's coffee, like, if he can't see the bottom of the cup, it's too strong.
So he likes to drink tar.
No. He drinks. No. The opposite.
Oh, the opposite.
If he can't see the bottom of the cup.
Oh, so it is weak.
Yeah, it's weak. It actually looks like tea that we made fun of last week.
Oh, boy.
It's like brown water with no flavor.
Yep.
And so
That's what my wife calls coffee.
What I thought we would do is that we would make coffee from a source that's not our favorite.
Well, I hope your dad appreciates
Yes,
this.
exactly. So there you go, Dad. Just for you. I'm just going to set this up right here so you can see that.
So do you remember those old Folgers commercials back in like the 90s, early 2000s?
Yes.
That was with their big, the best part of waking up. Those ones?
Yes.
So when I was growing up, I thought that Folgers was like the premium coffee.
Exactly.
And so when I was old enough to start drinking coffee,
yes.
I immediately, the first coffee I bought was Folgers. Now,
yes.
I didn't know this at the time because I was 17 years old, but I actually bought Folgers instant coffee.
Yep.
And so for the longest time, I thought instant coffee was how you made coffee. So I've come a long way, though.
Okay, well, the funny thing is, you're talking about that. Well, back in the 90s, in which I don't really like you saying
back
the
in
old
the 90s?
days.
Yeah.
Back in
those
the 90s,
are my old days.
When I was in university,
yeah.
right, was in the 90s.
There you go.
And university students, we have no money.
No.
None.
Been there, done that.
And so this was my go-to. I kept a big thing of this to make my coffee with.
Yeah.
And my grandmother Woodleaf, my dad's mom, when she would make me coffee, we kind of made fun of this last week.
Yeah.
It was like kiddie version because she put cream and sugar in it, right? And
yeah.
so I always thought, wow, Folgers rocks.
There
right?
you go.
And then I started buying it myself, and again, universities.
Yeah. You're a broke student, so you take what you get.
Cream or sugar, so I started drinking my coffee
the
black.
way you should.
And I realized that Folgers had a completely different taste.
It does.
Without it. And
so let's do it.
Without further ado, man.
All right.
I'm going to pour this in here for you.
Give me some Folgers. Oh, careful.
Yes.
There we go. That's good. That's good.
All right. Are you sure that's enough for you?
If it's Folgers, that's enough. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. Well, I know it's going to be hot. So let me tell you how you typically make this.
Okay.
And then no, you can't drink it.
I'm just blowing on it.
We're going to love on it together.
Okay.
So the way you typically make this, believe it or not, is I actually, because I'm a coffee snob, I boil the water.
Yep.
Then I put it in the bottom container.
Right.
Then I put the coffee grounds on top of it. Then I put it in the stove, the stove, and then heat it up.
To percolate.
Because I don't want to wait.
No.
For forever.
Because you'd be waiting like half hour.
Exactly. And so now we have our Folgers coffee made in an espresso. Well, we do have to smell it and talk about what we smell.
It smells.
It does smell.
I'm just gonna leave it there. That's all I need to say about Folgers is it smells. It smells like something.
It has a little bit of that. Have you ever, when you go camping and you have the
burnt coffee?
The ash left over from a fire? It kind of smells like burnt ash.
I wonder if it tastes like it. Let's give it a shot. Ooh.
Oh.
Folgers.
It's the best part of waking up.
It will wake you up. That's probably where they got the slogan.
Exactly, and it is Folgers. And if you want to drink Folgers in a new creative way, get you an espresso maker to make it.
So if any of you drink Folgers, God bless you. I think you have an iron stomach. I don't know how else you could drink it.
Did you get any? When you buy coffee, it always says like blueberries and raspberries, or dark chocolate or whatever. Did you get any tasting notes?
Nope.
I got one.
There's one note in there. What is it, Shane?
I don't know if I would use the word bitterness or burnt. I don't know which one I would use. But anyway, so here's to you, Dad. We're drinking Folgers to you.
All right, well.
And wow. All right, so let's move on from the coffee. And anyway, highly recommend one of these if you actually like to make a good espresso and a quality espresso. Don't put Folgers in this.
And if you guys got recommendations for what you want to see us drink, how you want to see us prepare it.
Coffee.
It's got to be coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you guys got your favorite brand or certain blend, whatever you want.
Or coffee makers, right? Like Phil and Sebastian's.
You got it.
Or our favorite, just right down the road.
Euphoria Cafe.
Euphoria Cafe. They got
stuff.
Good coffee there.
They use Rosso beans. Phenomenal little roastery in Calgary.
We're not even paid to promote that.
No, we're not.
Exactly.
If someone wants to pay us to promote it, I'd be okay with that.
Absolutely. Maybe we should talk to them about that.
I don't think Folgers is going to be promoting us, though, or paying us after that. So
me either, man.
All right.
So let's move on to the other concept, because, again, like we introduced last week, Brew House, yes, we're brewing coffee, but we're also using that as a bridge context to talk about Faith Talk, some of the things that we're thinking through with faith and good questions, big questions that we're asking. And so what are we talking about today, man? What big question?
So So we want to talk about what faith looks like in our new normal. And when I say new normal, we are really trying to grapple, you and I individually, with what does faith look like in a post-COVID world. Because if you're like us and you've been affected by everything that COVID has thrown at us in 2020, which now feels like it's 5 years long, it has impacted us in so many ways. And so how do we engage with faith? What is faith? You know, there's so many questions around that, and we've been asked that by so many people.
Right.
And so we just figured we wanted to kind of throw it out there and talk about it a little bit.
And I think it's important because what you just said I found significant. We're asking the question ourselves about our own lives, and our own thoughts, but we're also trying to figure it out for a group of people.
That's right.
And so what does that look like? Well, I think probably the first place we ought to start, maybe with this idea of faith in the new norm, is actually defining what this faith is.
Yeah.
And so faith is actually different than belief. Belief is part of faith, but it's different than faith. So faith actually means that I'm putting my faith or my belief in something, and here's the part where it changes. So it's not just belief.
Right.
It changes because now that I've put my faith in something, I now have to put action behind it. And so my action might be changing myself, changing things about myself. It might be changing the way I operate, I do things. It could even be a change of even saying like things like, what are my priorities for my family? What are my priorities for the community, my coworkers, all of those kind of things. And I think the interesting thing, like you just pointed out, is that we've been living for a really long time with people thinking faith had to look a certain way.
That's right.
And then COVID happens, and man, we are all of a sudden like broken down to our place of like foundation and trying to figure out how do we operate in that. And I mean, like we see it all over social media. People claiming to have faith who are arguing about, well, you don't have faith because you're wearing a mask, and no, you don't have faith because you're not wearing a mask. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. So I think that's a good working definition of faith. It's a belief that moves me to action. It's a belief that moves me to change the way that I am for myself and for others.
Well, and I think, you know, all of us put faith in something.
Okay.
All of us have an element of faith. Faith is simply something, like you mentioned, faith is something that we put stock in that motivates us to move from one place to another, right? All of us put faith that our car is going to keep us safe from point A to point B, right? You put your faith that the vehicle is safely going to move you in a direction, right? Yep. You trust that the different parts of that vehicle are safe for you to use. You trust that the other drivers on the road are also going to do their best and keep you safe. So all of us put faith, we put our trust in something. And as COVID has shifted our entire world, we are now trying to grapple with how do we invest or how do we trust in something. Because for a lot of us, our trust has been shaken in a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
I think something that I've found as I've interacted with the world around me and people around me that I care about, I've seen them interact, in their jobs, in their relationships. One of the big impacts that COVID has had is I think we're actually struggling to trust and put faith in people. Our circles have really shrunk. And so as that has happened, our sense of community, all those social clubs, all those avenues where we built and developed relationships, a lot of them have disappeared.
Right, absolutely.
And so I think a byproduct of that, at least for me, has been the way that I actually engage in my faith has dramatically shifted because now it's now more on me to pursue.
Yep.
Right? It's now more on me to really invest in rather than relying on the people around me, which I have found really interesting.
Right. Well, one of the things that almost happened here is I almost drunk another sip of that. And I'm so glad I remembered that Folgers was in there.
I can't wait until we brew something better.
Yes, me too. So one of the things I think is interesting about what you just said is that people have put their belief in something and then they're moving forward with that belief. And I think what's important is, or what we're seeing is that our faith in people and systems and culture and society and all of that has been shaken. And they make fun of me here because they call me a conspiracy theorist. So I
do. It's true.
I'm always pointing out these little things here and there. But one of the sad things is and I think this is for all of us to a point, is that sometimes we put our faith in the wrong things, and when times of crisis comes, or severe change like we're experiencing right now, our faith just crumbles, right? And so, like right now, I mean, how we engage with people, for instance, has shifted. The value of our work, our value of being employed, the value of doing community, like how do we interact with neighbors, or are we even interacting with neighbors? All of those questions really stem from this idea of faith. And so I think it's a really big question to ask.
Yeah, there was a conversation that I had recently around Brew House as I was talking to a colleague of mine, and the conversation that we really got into was, why do we all put faith into something? For instance, some people will vehemently believe that there is nothing to believe in.
Right.
But even that, they're putting their faith that there is nothing else out there. Right. That there's no God, that there's nothing else beyond themselves. Right. So all of us put belief in something, and a large part of that is, and we've seen it in COVID, is whenever there's chaos, whenever there's heartache, whenever there's trauma in our lives, that chaos, it really breeds this sense of trying to find a sense of right and wrong. It breeds this sense of trying to make sense of the world around us. And for me, I've been doing that. With COVID, what is happening in the world? How do I make sense of it? Why is COVID happening? Why is it happening on such a global scale? And so, just as a human, right, in human nature, we want to make sense of the world around us.
Right.
And faith has to play a part in that, because if we're trying to make sense of the world around us, we are going to latch on to different things, and we're going to invest in those things. We're going to invest our faith. We're going to pour in ourselves and become more attached to whatever that is. And so I think faith is going to be part of our new normal, right? Whether people shift their faith into a more monotheistic, religious faith-based sense, or they're going to invest their faith into other things in the world, it doesn't really matter. Their faith is going to be invested somewhere,
right? And
COVID is going to be an impact of it.
Right. And both of us coming from more counseling backgrounds, we would actually say that people are actually built to look outside.
Yep.
Right? Even for the person who says, you know what, there's nothing else than this physical plane.
Yep.
They're still putting a belief outside of themselves in that, right? And I think that the important thing is, or one of the important questions to ask around faith in this new norm, is I think some of us actually have to ask the question, where have I put my faith? Because I know some people who have put their faith in God have been supremely disappointed in him, because they've always viewed God as the bailout.
Yep.
The God that's never going to let me struggle or have hardships. I mean, there's been some groups and some belief systems that believe, all I have to do is name something and God's going to give it to me, right? And he wants me happy and healthy and wealthy, right? And that belief system, I think, is really struggling right now, right, with the current things that are happening. I think if I'm putting my belief system in government structures, well, what happens when those structures are even rocked, because they're not operating in normalcy anymore, right? And like right now, like everybody's put, which is going on big down in the U.S. right now, is everybody's put faith in the system, and all of a sudden COVID is just huge in the U.S. And so now they're talking about how are they going to do elections, and people are all up in arms because their system is crumbling.
That's right.
And they don't know how to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's, at least for me, coming from my perspective, is for my own self, I want to know how to move forward in the new norm.
That's right.
I don't want to be that guy that's stuck going, oh man, I wish it was back the way it was. And, remember that year, 2020, and in February it was so awesome, but then in March it went, I don't want to be that guy. I want to figure out, okay, I do have faith in something, that. And how does that faith move me forward in whatever norm
Yeah.
we have. And so I think the question for people, and maybe you want to speak to this, is how do they look at what they're putting their faith in, and then how do maybe they adjust that place of faith so they can move forward. I think there's a lot of people grieving, man.
Yeah, there is. I'll share a little bit about myself. You know this,
Yep.
and so some of our viewers might know this, but I went through a really rough divorce a number of years back, and that was a momentous kind of pillar of my life, right?
Yep.
A foundational, a piece of who I am, and during that period of my life, I really had to wrestle with where I had put my faith. Mm-hmm. And, I had grown up in the church. I had told myself, I had convinced myself that my faith was in God and God alone. Mm-hmm. And as I went through that process, I really struggled because I had really walked away from putting my faith in God. And I realized that all of my faith I had put in people.
Yep.
And as those people around me shifted and changed, so did I. Mm-hmm. And so I began shifting and changing because where my faith was, so I was, right? Like everything of who I was wrapped up in the people that I had put my faith in. And so I really had to wrestle coming out of that with where do I actually invest my faith? Where do I invest who I am? And so tangibly, coming into COVID, this is another kind of pillar milestone for people's lives.
Right.
This is going to be something that we will look back on in 5, 10, 20 years and talk about how COVID changed the way we live. So I think this is a great opportunity for people to really wrestle with where am I investing myself? What is it that I believe in? Why do I believe in that? And that's why we really wanted to ask this question.
Right.
What is faith in our new normal? Because faith will not be what it was before.
Right.
It can't be.
Well, dude, going with that, like talking about where is my faith and those things, you know my story.
Yep.
And so I grew up with this because I did put my faith in God. But what I found is I actually didn't put it in the reality of who he is. I put it in a version of him that I thought was true. And it was this Zeusian God that was always ready just to punch me in the mouth every time I messed up, right? And so when you have a life of mess ups like I do, you're always looking out for this God that's going to punch you in the mouth, right?
Terrifying.
And then I can remember the day that shifted to what I consider a more accurate picture of who he is and how that faith propelled me forward. And I think that's what we want everyone to do is actually to sit down and just ask the question, what is my faith in? And is that faith put in that thing or that person something that I've chosen, or was I taught that?
Yeah.
Am I just doing that because I've always thought that to be a good human or a good citizen, I need to do that?
Yeah.
Or are we actually asking those questions ourselves and coming up with those answers? Because, again, faith is not belief.
No.
Faith is a belief that's going to move me to action, and it's going to take me to a destination.
And I think a beautiful part of that is as faith leads you to action, action will reinforce that faith. Right? It's a cyclical effect where as you learn to lean in to what you're choosing to believe in, as you lean into whatever you're learning or growing into, as you evaluate your faith and it leads you to action, that action will be rewarded. You might not see it in a very tangible manner, but there is an internal system inside you that will be reinforced that will just strengthen not your resolve, but it'll strengthen your convictions, but from a very foundational, healthy place, right? If you know what I mean, like as we grow our faith, it's not a blind faith, but because we're actually growing and acting into it, that faith is built on a solid foundation, right? We can actually look at where that faith was, how we've gotten to where we are. And as an individual, that can be a very powerful thing, right? Yep. As opposed to the alternative, which is blind faith, which is what most of us have encountered at one point or another. And that is we anticipate we have faith in something, but really we just have belief.
Right.
And when that foundation shifts, we realized that it didn't really have much underneath it, and it can be very destructive.
Right. And I think in closing, I think it would be fair to say this. I think it would be fair to say that you and I both would agree that we think faith should move you forward.
Yes.
Faith shouldn't stall you in a normal or a new normal or a normal yet to be encountered.
Yeah.
Faith will move you into that, move you forward. And so we just want to encourage you, ask some really good questions around this and find a way to have the faith that moves you forward.
Couldn't sum it up better myself.
All right, fantastic. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for joining us.
And we'll have different clothes on.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Oh boy. All right, let's
Dude,
seriously.
completely
Come on, you spilled the coffee.
Completely just made a mess.
I'm
here.
not really.
Hold on a second. Let me get my cup.
I'm not too devastated. This stuff is.
All right.
You ready
so
for this?
let's hold on. You're gonna have to smell it first, right?
Oh, this smells awful.
It does, bro.
Okay, we can do this.
I'm cringing at even thinking about
All right, let's go.
Oh, Lord. That sucks.
Why did we decide on Folgers again?
That sucks. Well, it was a tribute to my dad.
All right, let's move on to our intro. Let's go. Oh, hold on. Give me a minute.